object. Alright, do not forget to subscribe, share and like, and do not forget that I'm using music by Xenen, Xnen. So you just go to YouTube and type Xenen music, Xnen music, and then you subscribe. So his music is free for use as long as you credit, and that's what I've done. So let's proceed. Alright, so in the previous part of our script, we improved by making sure, alright, so let me select, okay, by making sure that we have our symmetry enabled here, alright, and then it goes to the sub-object level, alright, so you can see this, and then you can toggle show end results. Now for some reason, when you toggle show end results, it will be on in the symmetry, but down here you have to toggle it manually. I checked the whole of Maxscript and I cannot find somewhere where you toggle it to the sub-object level like we're doing here, but trust me, we shall find it. So today we're learning something different. Do not forget to subscribe and share. So today we're going to flip our mirror to the x-axis or to the negative x, that is 1. 2, we are also going to collapse so that we have our modifier, our whatever we have morphed into one object. Now there's something I want you not to forget. When you come to the symmetry, somewhere here there is oh come on, hope I find where it is. Somewhere there is what we call, there is a symmetry distance. Is it this? No. Alright, so if I find it next time, I'll very sure I'll show it to you. There's a distance. Oh, I need to go to the symmetry, the threshold distance. Now mine right here is 0.1, but in certain cases you might have to improve the threshold distance to avoid what is called T vertices. Now I'll see if we have it in here in Maxscript, but we shall see with that, and if so, it will come in another episode of ours, but great, I've mentioned it. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to our UI designer. I need to improve our UI. I need to add the flip here, and then I need to add the collapse here too. And do not forget that we want, once you pick our button, you must enable or disable, okay, if you are in edit mode or not, right? Alright, so let's first go and improve our tools. So we shall come to our tools, and then we need to edit the rollout. Okay, so on our rollout, I'm looking for one. This must be a check button. Is it? Okay, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for not a check button, a checkbox. Okay, this is it, a checkbox, and this checkbox of ours is going to be called flip, so that you don't mind that. And then the other is going to be just a button, and it's going to be called collapse. So okay, so this button will be called collapse. Alright, so all I have to do is save, and then they are added to my rollout. Alright, so I have another checkbox. Where is it? Okay, here they are. Alright, so let me have saved. So this checkbox, I'm going to call it flip. That's the name I'll be calling. And then also I can give it a display name flip, and then this button is going to be called collapse. all right, and then I can call it done or collapse here, collapse. Or even instead of using collapse, I can make this state function run in here, so that when I'm done, okay, I just click this and then it will collapse it for me. So that depends on you who is doing this. All right, so let me run again, and there we are. We have our flip and then our collapse. So flip I've written, okay. So we need to edit this flip button. I think it needs more space because, okay. So let me go back to the tool and choose edit rollout. Okay. All right, so it just needs to be at the same line with the other. Okay, so they're in the same line, so I'll just save. Sorry, I'll save. Okay, those adjustments have come through. All right, so we're going to create our functions. So our first function is going to be flipping, and then the other will be unflipping. All right, so function flip x, okay, will equal to, so let's see. So in the modifier here, in the Maxscript here, okay, let me type symmetry, okay, there's symmetry poly tool. I need the modifier. Okay, here it is, symmetry flip. All right, so I'm just going to borrow something. I just need to show you that this is possible. Okay, so it's symmetry flip, and then you either turn it on or off. All right, so I'll also go to modifiers, and I show you something. Let me hope I find it. So there is something called modifier array. So in the modifier panel, okay, for example, in this modifier panel, this is an array for the modifiers. Okay, so you may have different modifiers here, but in the modifier stack, for example, this may be this may produce a bit array of symmetry, and another can be a bend. You can have several modifiers. So that's what the documentation is trying to show us here, that you may have, okay, there is how many modifiers do you have, and then the modifier array, that's an integer, and then here you retrieve the named modifiers. So it comes in as an array, and inside the array there's a bit array or a string. All right, so we're going to try and get that. So how do we do that? Okay, so the first thing, when the object is at this mode, okay, remember when we're editing, let me first remove this modifier, okay, and then I run our script again. When I choose to mirror, okay, it goes to sub-object level 1. You see that? So I need to go back to the symmetry modifier for me to be able to tick if I'm flipping or not. Okay, so how do I do that? Remember, when we go to our modifiers, okay, modifier or modifier types, modifier panel, okay, there is something that says set current object. Set current object, we used it to get the current, so get selection level, set selection level, modifier, set current object. Okay, all right, so we're going to do modi panel panel dot set current object, okay, and then dollar or the node that you've selected dot modifiers, the modifiers of that node, dot modifiers, the node modifiers of that node, and then the bit array or the array. So inside the array I am placing a bit array, which bit array is the symmetry. Now I haven't tried it if you have two symmetries. So alright, so you can see it's already on the sub-object level. So if I press shift enter and run this, you see it has gone to the symmetry modifier. Okay, so inside the after going to the symmetry modifier, what do I need? I need to flip that modifier. So the first thing I do is select the modifier itself. So dollar, okay, dot modifiers. Okay, now I select the modifier that I want to, because there may be different modifiers. Okay, so dollar dot modifiers. So remember we are accessing modifier array. So dollar dot modifiers, which modifier are we looking for? The symmetry modifier. Okay, symmetry modifier. And what do we want to do that? Dot flip. So we are flipping. Okay, so let it be on. Right, so Control S. So after flipping, if I shift and press enter, so you see I've flipped my modifier now and the flip is being ticked. All right, so what do I want to do? I want again to go back to the base object and select the base object. Okay, which means I have to again do, so after flipping, I go again to the base object. So the good thing with creating a tool, these are the things I would have to do manually here. Okay, but then I'm creating a tool that is going to do them automatically by just checking a checkbox. All right, so I have to select the modify panel again, mod panel. Okay, dot what? Dot set current object, and then selected, and then what is selected? The base object. There's also what we call the target object, so there are very many things. So if I press shift enter, all right, you can see I've gone back to the base object. All right, so I still want, the moment I go back to this base object, the selected sub object to be 1. Okay, therefore for you, if you're looking for instead of vertices, you want to look for edges or faces, you choose accordingly. So which means edges will be 2, faces will be 4. All right, and then for example, let me just switch the sub object level. Let me see, and then sub object level equal to, let me say 4. If I press shift enter, so you can see it has switched to faces. You see that, but I'll equate mine to 1, so shift enter. All right, so that the selected vertex, right, is then enabled. All right, so you can see we've already now learned how to flip. Therefore, if I turn on show end results, you see I've flipped now. What I'm working on here can only be affected by this side, okay, by the opposite side. So you can see the opposite side is the one affecting. You see that? So it is affecting this side. So I've flipped now. What is this side is the one affecting this side, which would not be possible with our first mirror, where we were mirroring the vertices in the first place in the other video. So if I run the flip again, okay, if I run this whole command again, which I'll have to come from top, shift enter. All right, so you see I've flipped now. What I've flipped this side, okay, I need to enable show end results. Have I flipped again? Oh, so it is flip on. All right, so I need to create another that is going to do a flip off. So I'll just copy this. Okay, and then I'll call this flip XX. Okay, and then this time around flip off. You see that? Flip off, and then I just get this, shift enter. So I've changed the flip now. So you see what is working this side. So flip negative X, flip positive X. All right, so let's first work with the syntax now to make sure that our flip button here works well when we flip X and Y. All right, so I'm going to go and I called this flip button flip. All right, so on flip I'll just put it here under our mirror. I'll write also one for the mirror so just to have enough space. I don't know why I like that. So on flip changed state, then do this. Okay, do this. So what do you do? Let's put that in that. So I'm going to write an if statement. I think if you followed our first videos, we learned the if statement. So there is if do and if then. All right, so let me make sure that I repeat them here so that we learn them entirely. So if, all right, so if flip dot state, remember we are changing the state of the button, is equivalent to true. Okay, do this. So I've started with the if do. Do this. Do what? You run this function. So the function is called flip X. All right, so save. All right, so let's do this. So if I flip, voila, it has flipped. Now this side is no longer affecting, it's only this side that is affecting. You see, I've flipped that to the negative X. But if I uncheck now, there is nothing that does that. So if do cannot be done with the else statement. So if you are to add an else, okay, so if I add an else here, and then you're going to say I'm going to run into an error, and then the other function is flip XX, the one that flips it back or turns the flip off. So if I run, if I run this, okay, you see we receive an error because the else does not go with the if do. The else goes with the if then. Okay, all right, so the else will go with the if then. So if true, then do this, else do that. All right, so it's already now flipped. Okay, and if I uncheck, it has flipped it to the other side. So just because you can see, so this side is no longer affecting, I have to select the vertex this side. You see that? So if I flip the other side, it will be now this vertex that is selecting. So you can see we've been able to work with our flip button. All right, so let's meet in the next video where I'm going to talk about the collapse button here. Thank you for watching these videos. Do not forget to subscribe, share. Okay, just a recap. I've created two functions. The first function was the flip to the X, and then the other to turn the flip on, and then the other to turn the flip off. And then what I've done, first I've selected the modifier stack, okay, by selecting the modifier panel, and then I've set the current object selected to be the modifier, which is returned in the array, and I've put a bit array of the selected modifier, which is symmetry. And then after I've flipped, okay, because if I go here, it's where I can enable the flip on or off. And then after flipping, by default is, by the way, it's always in the X, but you can flip on the Y, it's up to you. There is one for the axis, and then After then, I want to select again the base object. So that's when I come and write this line of code that in the modifier stack, I want to set the current object selected to be the base object, and then I go back to sub-object mode level 1. Then flip xx is just turning the flip off, but the rest is the same. And then I have to write the if else, okay, if then else statement to check, okay, what state. That same if then else statement can be checked here, okay. For example, I can, in fact, instead of the collapse, I can check if I uncheck the mirror, it collapses all, and if I check all, it either deletes the symmetry modifier. All right, so we're going to see how we do that. All, it just turns off. I can say if unchecked, it just turns off this symmetry, okay, for you to view one side. Now you can see there are quite a number of buttons that we can create. Let's meet in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe. We shall be seeing how to collapse this to retain whatever we've modified on one side of our object.